Shane Cade gan Owen on Taoiseach Canadu, Glaching Mela, Hanmu Cananish. The next business item number 1, nomination of Taoiseach. I will now receive motions.
Count Corlia, Tarrageen, Gunan Noig, Dáil on the top of Reno Cowen, a Capeg, Uttaran Taoiseach. I move, Count Corlia, that Dáil nominate Deputy Brian Cowen for appointment by the President to be Taoiseach. Deputy Brian Cowen, Count Corlia, is immensely well qualified to undertake the duties of the office of Taoiseach. First elected to Dáil in 1984, he's been re-elected on every election since. In addition to extensive experience of local government, he's been a member of the British-Irish Interparliamentary Body, an opposition spokesperson on agriculture, food and forestry, and has shown ability and leadership in the succession of demanding ministerial responsibilities as Minister for Labour, Minister for Transport, Energy and Communications, Minister for Health and Children, Minister for Foreign Affairs, including a critically important role during our successful presidency of the European Union, and Minister for Finance since 2004 and Taoiseach since June 2007. His extensive experience across his ministerial career, his deep involvement with Northern Ireland and the peace process, his skilled and widely admired engagement in Europe on behalf of the European Union during our presidency, all equip him to undertake the obligations of the Office of Taoiseach with flair and capacity. Furthermore, as a most successful contributor to partnership government over recent years and his active role in the negotiation of the current programme for government, he is well placed to lead a government which will enjoy the support, the commitment and the energy of all three parties, as well as those independent members of the House who support our programme. Throughout his career, Count Corlia, he has been a fair-minded and straight-talking participant in the social partnership process, and he has all the necessary skills to lead the process towards the next stage of development in line with the needs of our economy and society. In short, Count Corlia, I consider Deputy Brian Cowen to be a uniquely well-qualified candidate to succeed me in the position of Taoiseach and to lead the country towards the realisation of our shared objectives and to the challenge which we face in the period ahead.
Minister John Gormley.
Ceann Comhairle, Cuireann sé áthas orm cuidiú leis an mula sin. On behalf of this government, I wish to second the nomination of Brian Cowen for the position of Taoiseach of our country. Ceann Comhairle, during the protracted and sometimes tense negotiations which led to the formation of government, I got to know Brian Cowen, the politician and the private man. And I'd like to let the House know that the Brian Cowen that I know is tough but fair-minded. He is gregarious but thoughtful. He is relaxed but always focused on the task in hand. And he knows that the task he now faces as Taoiseach of our country is an onerous one. He knows that to complete this task successfully, there must be a strong and unified government. A lesson I think he has learned so well from former Taoiseach Bertie Ahern, a man to whom this country owes a great debt of gratitude. We now enter uncertain times with rising oil prices, rising food prices, the credit crunch and climate change, all posing major challenges to governments all over the world. Minister Brian Cowen is ideally placed to tackle these challenges and to turn those challenges into real opportunities for this country. I believe he has the ability to harness the energy and the innovation of the Irish people to embrace this transformational agenda, because the decisions we take now will have profound consequences, not just for 5 or 10 years, but for 25 years and for future generations. And so it is with a sense of pride and a sense of hope that I ask the House, on behalf of this government of Fianna Fáil, the Green Party, the Progressive Democrats and the Independents, to support the nomination of Brian Cowen. Dá bhrí sin, cuireann sé áthas orm tathú leis an mula. Gur mágraf.
Deputy Richard Bruton.
Ceann Comhairle, I move that Enda Kenny be nominated for the position of Taoiseach. Today we come as 165 equal people elected by the electorate of this country to make decisions about the future of this country in a very changed economic environment. We have to decide what now are our priorities. We have to decide, are we just going to go on as we have, or are we going to opt for change and radical change? In nominating Enda Kenny for the post of Taoiseach today, Fine Gael makes it clear that we are opting for a path of radical change. In Enda Kenny, we have had a leader who has listened, who has understood, and has radically changed the way in which this party works. He has renewed Fine Gael. He has gone to the country and proposed to people a contract for a new Ireland. He has helped build an alliance for change that came up just short in the last election. And the truth is that the interest and commitment to change has not waned, but intensified with the changes that this country has seen in the last number of months. Just 12 months ago, Fianna Fáil Taoiseach was successfully elected in this House, with the support, new sources of support. And a programme for government was put together. I'm sure it was well meant. But the truth is, as we all know, that programme for government is now in tatters. The resources on which it was built will not materialise. Now, I think we have to ask ourselves honestly, are we going to stand in denial and pretend that things have not radically changed, that that programme is not deliverable? I believe that it would be a betrayal of the people that we are elected here to represent if we pretend that nothing has changed, if we do not face up to the fact that priorities have to now change, if we pretend that bureaucrats can go on busily working on projects for which there will not, in the words of Minister Dermot Ahern, be a red cent to deliver. That, in my belief, is a betrayal of people who sent us here. I think honesty also demands that we don't pretend that the difficulties that we're now facing in this economy are ones of an international making. It is not an international crisis that has built huge spending programmes on the back of property revenues that were never sustainable. It's not an international crisis that has made Ireland the most expensive country in Europe. It's not international forces that has seen Ireland slide 17 places in our competitiveness rankings and seeing our exports lose share for 5 consecutive years in a row. The outgoing government has quite simply lost sight of what it takes to survive in a small, open economy, trading overseas in tough, competitive markets. And that is why change is on the agenda today and should be on the agenda of everyone who's going to come in here and vote on what we do later today. Ireland, in my belief, combines areas of outstanding achievement side by side with huge potential unfulfilled. And it is the perpetuation of a certain style of government which is at the heart of our problems. Ireland doesn't lack for talent, least of all in the public sector. The shortcomings we see today stem from a failure to change a system that was designed for an Ireland that has passed 50 years ago. The Ireland that that style of government has created, it is not a good place to be homeless. It's not a good place to be autistic. It's not a good place to be suicidal. It's not a good place to be chronically ill and in need of a bed. It's not a good place to be black. We must confront why such people are let down by the state. It's a betrayal to pretend that failings that have happened far away from the centre of government buildings are not ultimately political failings for which this House must be accountable. It is facile, to quote the Minister for Finance, to stand up in this House and to list all the money spent and all the extra staff employed and not ask why today are frail, sick people sitting on trolleys in the Mater Hospital in cramped and crowded and unacceptable conditions. And not ask why a bewildered family with a child racked by depression can get no help. These are the questions we must ask today, because today is the day we set out what our priorities are for the future. How can a service, a public service, which we're told is so well endowed with resources, turn its back on people like this? It's not because we have knaves running our public services. It's because we have trapped compassionate people in a system that is failing them. How can you look at this record and so many people let down and not feel there's now a need for a new vision, for radical change, for total renewal? It's a delusion to talk of parties being the embodiment of the nation and not clamour for a new direction now in the face of those difficulties. It's hollow to elevate the virtue of loyalty and ask us to persist along the same road. In the face of persistent refusal to recognise and make changes in this country, loyalty is a much diminished virtue in my book. Where is the mandate for change, I ask, going to come from? Where is the mandate for renewal going to come from? It has to come from us. We are the tribunes of the people, elected to represent people. It is our decisions today that will make that difference. Are we going to seek someone and give a mandate for real change and commit to genuine change in the way we behave? Because it is the reforms that we demand. It's the standards that we insist upon. It's the solidarity that we espouse. It's the priorities that we set that will determine the direction this country takes. If the ground for change is not staked out today, it will not happen tomorrow, and it will not happen the day after. We can't persist with a style of government that we have got used to in this House, which takes the lazy option of creating new agencies for every problem, which puts hacks on boards without regard to the skills needed, which operates a budget system which does not hunt down waste, does not reward performance, but when times get tough, it makes the weak and the vulnerable take the hit. We cannot persist with a system that feels it can move public servants around like pawns on a board and not devolve real power to the regions who are clamouring for that opportunity to develop themselves. We cannot persist with ministers who preen themselves at glitzy launches, but when the time for responsibility comes for things that did not get delivered, they are not to be found. We have had a style of government that has been about big talk. Big talk engendered big hope. However, even with big opportunity, we have just seen big disappointment. We've become used in this House to empty ritual. But now, I believe, is a time for political seriousness. Fine Gael under Enda Kenny has a vision for a better Ireland. It's a vision which renews politics, which reinvents the economy, which restores community. It's built on a hard-headed realism that tough decisions will have to be made to make that happen. Big bureaucracies will have to be broken up. Diversity of provision will have to be fostered. Information on performance will have to be released. Success will have to be rewarded. Agencies will have to stop defending their turf, but instead merge their work with others to maximise effectiveness. Today should be the opportunity for the change in direction that this country needs. Most likely it will not be. But the problems which require change will not go away. They will be here tomorrow, they will be here the day after. And come what may in today's vote, Enda Kenny will continue to build that case for change and to offer Irish people a real different way of doing business. Thank you.
Ceann Comhairle, it is with great pride that I second the nomination of Enda Kenny. Enda Kenny has achieved what was deemed to be impossible just 5 or 6 years ago. He has reinstated the Fine Gael party as the dominant leading opposition party in this House by presiding over an election which saw us gain 20 Dáil seats in this chamber last year. Enda Kenny's calm and decisive leadership are qualities that I believe are badly needed in the next Taoiseach of this country. Enda Kenny is a man whose strength of character and whose courage of conviction make him the ideal choice to lead the country as we face into difficult economic times. The challenges that lie ahead, the stemming of the tide of rising unemployment, reducing of inflation rates, increasing and improving the competitiveness of our economy, and particularly and especially the reform of public services, will require the calm and considered leadership of a man who is not afraid to make and take the tough decisions. I commend Enda Kenny to the House.
Ceann Comhairle, it is an honour for me to propose Deputy Eamon Gilmore to be Taoiseach. The Taoiseach we nominate today will lead our country in testing times. There will be hard choices to make, but also opportunities to seize. Today is like the changing of the guard. The traditional ritual seems to offer reassurance. Things change. Everything remains the same. We know that that is a fantasy. Things have changed and changed fundamentally. Since we went through this ceremony last June, tens of thousands have lost jobs, businesses have closed, the cost of living has risen steeply, and the state finances have slipped rapidly into deficit. What the country is getting is a changing of the guard. What the country needs is a change of government. So much depends on leadership. Eamon Gilmore can provide that leadership, a man of and in touch with the rural Ireland of his upbringing, a man who has spent his life representing working people and their families, a man known for his commitment to the vulnerable, a man who believes in equality and solidarity as real and realisable political goals. Ireland today has a crisis of confidence in the way our country is run, in the political process, in the power of vested interests. Trust has become a rare commodity. Bravado statements that everything is fine. An election won on deception about the economy. That's what has led to this collapse of confidence. Ireland faces a leadership deficit because those about to take charge cannot bring themselves to recognise just how serious the situation is and just how responsible their actions have been to the state we are now in. The result is likely to be a downturn longer and deeper than need be, and the whole country will suffer. Brian Cowen, I know, has the confidence of his party. Well and good, he will have a fair wind from the country for a while to see if he can get to grips with current problems in a fresh and imaginative way. Frankly, I doubt it. Everything suggests that the people of Ireland will need to look elsewhere for the kind of leadership that can offer honest government in turbulent times, as an alternative to one that is tied hand and foot, as this one is, to the vested interests of speculators, developers and reckless bankers. Time and again, Brian Cowen waved away warning messages that flashed as brightly as a neon sign. Every time, vested interests won the argument. The casual reaction of Mr. Cowen to the decline in the public finances is ominous. That was directly under his control. He cannot blame the European Central Bank in Frankfurt or the Federal Reserve in Washington for all that has happened. It was his call to steer a correction course. He did not do so. And this begs the question, the critical question. If this Minister for Finance is the person to guide the country as Taoiseach through the more difficult times ahead, is he that person? We need to go back to basic values that put Ireland and her people first. Need before greed, and people before profit. I nominate the leader of the Labour Party, Deputy Eamon Gilmore, for Taoiseach, because I believe he is the kind of leader who will speak a new principle for a new age. Eamon Gilmore has a vision for Ireland. He wants to establish a strong sense of direction in our national life, of who we are and where we want to go. I recall that it was Franklin Roosevelt who led the US from the Depression by taking the core principles of social democracy on board. We have nothing like the difficulties of those times. But today it is those same principles of social democracy that we place to the front and centre of the political agenda by nominating Eamon Gilmore for the post of Taoiseach. I move account Corla.
Deputy Michael D. Higgins.
Corla is tafir kinaha sarama is privilege agus con an year in a row is akkoit moire de chance am Eamon Gilmore a wallo mar conve mar Taoiseach agus da var sin quidim leis an ruin. Kamalish and cap him hain go will ni awan gar minak Taoiseach atan ach ta fiúnta sí persant as politúlege agus tá si de heastal ag an amse. Kamalish is fair a man an heasa and ni awan iatsan a will Cyprus aka haka hoirehe cosmuinter na herin atá ag falling taréis beidir an fás acnamiachta taréis a harlo sna blinta dírakata ime. Count Cowen, it's a very great privilege and pleasure to nominate my colleague, the leader of the Labour Party, Eamon Gilmore, to fill the post of Taoiseach. What's taking place today should never be reduced to being a choice between personalities. It is, as you have heard, a choice between political visions. It is my belief that fundamental change in Ireland will take place when on occasions like this people will be invited to a choice between, for example, choice rather like as is available in most of the countries of Europe and is available in so many places around the world. A choice between a social democratic vision, a socialist vision and its alternative. And for that reason, I think this choice between political visions is important at this time, as the person we choose will be a person who makes the choices in times of scarcity. And indeed, many people will ask the question as to whether those, in fact, who have squandered the times of surplus and its opportunities are the people who are best equipped to steer us in times of scarcity. What is important is that there be an important reconnection between the society and the economy in a way that allows for participation, in a way that allows for equality, that offers guarantees to those who have suffered and those who have, for example, gained little or who have, in fact, gone back at the times of the greatest economic growth in recent times. So for that reason, it is, at a personal level, a great privilege to agree with the nomination of Eamon Gilmore, the leader of the Labour Party. A person who has come from a rural background and never lost connection with it and its issues, and who has moved to an urban setting and taken on those issues, who has a generosity of spirit, and who is a person who can listen to the voices that are coming from below, and at the same time be able to discount the raucous demands of the speculative voices who have destroyed the connection between our economy and society, eroded trust in politics, and created so much disillusionment. I also think at this time that he is a person who will be able to represent in an inclusive way the cultural prospects of our country. Beshin an siasni want an gaelge ach da muinta na gaeltachta. Ta tahiaga agus hiasche goni dus na fiunta she ta tafachta ta tiacht on tradition ach ganam kene is dinne nu aimshrak I believe, therefore, it is a great privilege. It is with much pleasure I nominate somebody who has the personal qualities that Eamon Gilmore has, his experience of negotiating. And the real negotiation that counts is when you have, in fact, workers whose lives and livelihood and whose wages are being threatened across the table from an obdurate employer. That is the real negotiating experience. He has that. He has experience in politics at every level. And I think is more important than anything else, as I mentioned. It is na fiúntaí pásantacha, go gangelnish na fiúntaí politúla. It is when a person combines a political vision with fine personal qualities that one can have confidence that change can happen. Dá bhar sin, tá áthas saram cuidú leis an móla seo.
Teachtó Fréileáin.
Gora maithagad Ceann Comhairle. Ceann Comhairle, ní bhaidh teach féin ag taco le anamniú an aragadas mar Taoiseach. Níl míad ag taco leis an rialtas seo. Tá sin anam is a bheithin a chórialtas ach in na rire is rialtas ina fóla a ligan de Mary Harney, agus donna glassi part a Glacowan. Níl difriocht dar laiad I the policy on rialtas seo, agus policy on rialtas fianna fáil agus na PDs, idir nígéad nócha seacht agus gá mhíle sa seacht. Ba white ling, go méid tróir nua le Taoiseach nua, agus go dtí go méid sé sin ann ní féidir ling taco leis an molú seo. The Sinn Féin Seachtaí Dáil will not be supporting the nomination of the Minister for Finance, Brian Cowen, as Taoiseach. The record of governments dominated by Fianna Fáil since 1997 has been such that we cannot endorse them by voting for their nominee. The current government, since its formation in June last, has shown itself to be essentially a Fianna Fáil government with the participation of Mary Harney and 2 Green ministers. It is neither a partnership government nor a coalition in any real sense. It continues the policies of the Fianna Fáil PD governments led by the outgoing Taoiseach for over a decade. We see the results of those policies today in our crisis-ridden health services, in poorly resourced schools, in the worsening drug scourge and violent crime, in the deep divide between the privileged and the marginalised, in the economic slump brought about by overdependence on the property market. We could wallpaper the Dáil with Fianna Fáil election manifesto promises of more hospital beds, the end of hospital waiting lists within 2 years, a network of primary care centres, the extension of the full medical card to an additional 200,000 people, tens of thousands of social and affordable homes, zero tolerance of crime, protection of Irish neutrality, and so on. All have been defaulted upon. The outgoing Taoiseach and his cabinet colleagues have shown themselves to be serial defaulters. That said, the incoming Taoiseach has now an opportunity, just 1 year after the general election, to change all that and to take government policy in a new direction. We have always said that if a government proves itself worthy of support, then the Sinn Féin TDs would give their support to such a government and to the Taoiseach at its helm, irrespective of who he or she may be. What we require, and more importantly, what the people require, is a Taoiseach and a cabinet that place equality at the heart of government. Such a government would transform our health services, ending the 2-tier system, putting patients first, and allowing healthcare workers to provide care to all on the basis of need and need alone. It would ensure that every school, every hospital and every primary care centre was fully resourced and providing premium public services. Such a government would base housing policy on the needs of the people for homes and not on the greed of a voracious market that has left tens of thousands of families without homes or in crippling mortgage debt. Such a government would support communities and provide the means to tackle both the demand for and the supply of drugs that are causing such misery and mayhem in our society. This is the new direction we need to see. But I have to say, the signs are not good. Already we are hearing about belt tightening and tough decisions. Health cuts are again hurting the old and the sick and the disabled. In what is supposedly one of the richest states in the world, we have classes being taught in converted toilets. And the St Vincent de Paul Society reports levels of demand on their services not seen since the 1980s. Are we to return to the so-called tough decisions of that era when the weakest in our society were hit most? I urge the incoming Taoiseach to chart a new course. His talents and energy are undoubted, and I do wish him well. He has the leadership of his party and command of an apparently stable government. We in Sinn Féin have worked with him in the peace process, and he is now clearly in a prime position to set a fresh agenda on all of the issues that affect our people on a daily basis. If such a new direction was indeed forthcoming, then Sinn Féin would revisit our voting position with regard to this government, but until then we cannot support the Fianna Fáil nominee for Taoiseach. Goramagat Ceann Comhairle.
Deputy Mary Harney.
Ceann Comhairle, it gives me great pleasure on behalf of the Progressive Democrats to support the candidacy of Brian Cowen for Taoiseach. I think it's generally acknowledged that Brian Cowen has great intelligence and abilities. He uses those abilities very much to play as part of a team. I think that's been his hallmark. Notwithstanding his youthfulness, he's the youngest of the candidates being put forward here this afternoon. He has enormous political experience, having held the Ministry of Labour, the Ministry of Health and Children, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and more recently the Ministry of Finance and Taoiseach. He uses, I think, the ability that he's been given to work for his community. And can I just say in relation to the last speaker, because we constantly hear the same speech from Deputy Caoimhín O'Callaghan. The fact is in Ireland, Deputy, that a child born today will live longer than a child born in the Netherlands, in Germany, in Belgium, in the UK or in Denmark.
Deputy Harney.
Deputy, I listen to you. I listen to you, Deputy. I listen to you, Deputy, and I'd appreciate it if you would listen. And that is as a result of better medical interventions. The fact is that life expectancy in Ireland for the first time is now ahead of the EU average and has increased by 3 full years, the highest improvement in the whole of the OECD between 1999 and 2005. The fact too is that children with cancer in Ireland today have a survival rate that's top of the class worldwide, and all our survival rates are improving. The fact too is that more people have free access to their general practitioner than was the case in the 80s, when unemployment was 3 times higher than it is today.
Deputy Harney, without interruption, please. Without interruption. Interruption.
I know people don't want to listen to the facts, but these are the facts. And the fact too is that 400,000 more people are being treated in our hospitals today than was the case a decade ago. And this Minister for Finance, this Minister for Finance has been hugely supportive, as a team player working with me as Minister for Health. Can I say, Brian Cowen's experience goes way beyond the 4 ministries in this particular country. When he was Foreign Minister as part of our presidency, for example, he advanced, promoted and succeeded in getting agreement from the EU that there would be no unilateral intrusion of borders between Palestine and Israel, and that was a very significant agreement, agreed actually in Tullamore, I understand. He was the first politician to meet Yasser Arafat after September the 11th. A very troubled time for this world, a time of great sensitivity, and I think he used his enormous political skills to bring a calming influence. I have no doubt, as captain of the team, he will use the enormous ability for the benefit of the team. He will use not just his abilities, but his capacity to make tough decisions. Because I think in Deputy Cowen we have somebody that is capable of making the right decision and of standing by the right decision and of defending the decision. And I think that is particularly important at a time when we have enormous challenges and pressures, particularly from the differing circumstances arising in the international economic environment, Deputy Sheehan. Can I lastly say, I know today is obviously a very happy time for Brian Cowen and his family, and I know that they're here in the environs of this House. And although he is, as I said, the youngest of the 3 candidates, he is somebody, I think, that has enormous political insights and a great vision for the country he believes in. And in particular, I think he believes in equality of access to services, in equity, and in ensuring that the resources this country can make available are made available to those that need them most. So it's a great pleasure for me and for my colleague Deputy Grealish to support the candidacy of Brian Cowen, and I very much look forward to his election later this afternoon as Taoiseach.
Deputy Tony Gregory.
Ceann Comhairle, os rud é nach mé an deisegam leabhart an siotnaí Stainey in ní an Taoiseach don Taoiseach, agus os rud é go bhfuil sé silléir go mé tromlach sa Dáil ag an teachta Brian Cowen, agus go mé sé ina Taoiseach i gceann tamil gear. Ba bhfuil liomsa an deisig lecha cógardachas a dhéana leis. Go háirithe de bhar an seasamh láid ar a ghlach sé ar son na Gaeilge ar teanga náisiúnta nuair a tabhag é ina Uachtarán ar Fianna Fáil. I would also like to say, Ceann Comhairle, that as my late mother was born and reared in County Offaly, and as I spent my own holidays in childhood, during my childhood, on a small farm on the edge of the Bog of Allen, in the shadow of Crotton Hill. Ceann Comhairle, I want to welcome the fact that County Offaly will shortly have the great honour of being the home county for the first time of a Taoiseach. This does not mean, of course, that I intend voting for Deputy Cowen. But I do want to say on this occasion that he certainly has my good wishes on what is clearly a great occasion for him, for his family and for his county. I would like to hope that in his term as Taoiseach that he may see the justice in taking steps to end the divisive inequalities that exist, particularly in our health service, in education and in housing in Ireland today. It is my view that the increasing social inequality of recent years is the major issue facing all of us who are elected by the people to this House. I would also, Ceann Comhairle, finally like to take the opportunity to record my thanks to my constituency colleague Deputy Ahern for his kind words recently regarding my health, and I want to take the opportunity to wish him well also. Go raibh maith go to Ceann Comhairle.
If there are no other contributions. Sorry. I should have known you wouldn't let me down, Deputy Leader.
Ceann Comhairle, I'm delighted to stand up in this House this evening, and the funny thing about it is I'd be hoping maybe around 6 o'clock this evening when Brian Cowen will have his sums done, and I'll help him to do the sums, of course, the same as they helped Bertie in 1997. But I might be hoping that that court will be coming after when they were nothing on but were shut. And they would be going down to South Kerry to help me with potholes. Because I'll tell you the truth, since you put on that jacket, you I'm getting an apple fried altogether down below. And that's the God's honest. So, if Brian would give me any hearing this evening, I'd be delighted if he pulled that off and put it on some other fellow in Labour down to help me down in South Kerry. Because I'm telling you the God's honest truth. Ceann Comhairle, the weather is getting very hot and I am under pressure. But I will say that I'm here to support Brian Cowen this evening, the very same as I did in 97 when I planked our famous man Bertie in the seat that he's inside in it since until yesterday evening, and I wish him the very best of good luck. Whatever part of the world he'll face, there's one thing sure anyway, no one will have to ask him his name when he'll be going on different journeys. And I wish him the very best, and I wish you many years of success, Brian, and I'll be planking down a number one over there for another minute, and I wish you many years of happiness and success. Good luck to you.
other contributions, I must put the question there for Gun an nóig Dáil an teachta Brino Cowen chun a cheapa ag an Uachtarán mar Taoiseach. That Dáil nominates Deputy Brian Cowen for appointment by the President to be Taoiseach. Teachtaí atá Haimh na Tariscina Abradís Tá. Na teachtaí atá ina Gcuine Abradís Níl. Sílim go bhfuil an ceist Rita. I think the question is carried. Fótáil. Mir Ivrahan, Taoiseach Animu. Item number 1, nomination of Taoiseach. Is Asia Alanis an Cheist, Gunam Noig Dáil an Teachta Brino Cowen con a Kappa Egan Ultaran Mar Taoiseach agus Irig Votal an Geshin. The question is that Dáil nominates Deputy Brian Cowen for appointment by the President to be Taoiseach. And on that question, a division has been challenged. Arahori Ta na Teachtaí Tom Kitt and John Curran, Tellers Ta, Deputies Tom Kitt and John Curran, Arahori Neil na Teachtaí Paul Keogh agus Emmett Stagg, Tellers Neil, Deputies Paul Keogh and Emmett Stagg. Tá 88, Neil 76. The question is carried. Deputy Indekini.
Concorda, on my way down to Arbor Hill this morning, I got a phone call from a man called Gormley. And my heart did give a jump, and that I thought it was Minister John about to say that he was interested in not supporting Minister Cowen. And at the traffic lights at Christchurch, when the light came green 4 times in a row and the traffic didn't move, I happened to notice the billboard which said we're spending 34 billion on the Transport 21 plan. But I have to tell you that the gentleman in charge was not Minister Gormley. Bhualam si ceann mo cócáidgus a dlacha le Brian Cowen. Go pásanta agus some na fáirtise. Asocht gur tú tufanis agus anamnathe mar híisic le golamach go uachtarán na héireann bheith mar tíisic muintir na héireann. Is cúis seochas dutse agus the van chéile mar agus the wahar méad a húsan sin agus the chlán sinnéad agus méamh agus the muintir the Dáil cheantar agus the muintir héin is cúis áthas agus is cúis a bheith bródú las. Gnéana dí trochar dátharsa agus maitharsa bhí siad an seo le chéile cha mé dáthair bhar go minic an seán ar bhí sé mar thachta dála agus is tócha cinach bhfuil sé linn aniu gur cúis anna bhródú da dátharsa go bhfuil amhac tócaí agus anamnathe bheith mar híise agus sílim gur anóir iontach mór é sin dutse a bhríonn a thachta agus ara. Is tú an ilíonn óir da the winse aniu agus dlacham mar dúirt mé mo chogáidgus pásanta agus son mar fáitise a socht an onóir mór atá cura os le chóir sa Dáil seo aniu. Esto Fidelis is the motto of Offaly, the faithful county, and you have epitomised that Taoiseach nominated in your attitude towards your party, in your attitude towards your constituents, and in your attitude to the previous leaders of the Fianna Fáil party. You have always placed great store in political loyalty. You have spoken in this House on numerous occasions about the virtue that is, and the challenge now facing you when you receive your seal of office and name your government is to balance that loyalty against the requirements of the national interest and all our people whom you will now represent. The enormous privilege bestowed on Minister Cowen by the Dáil today has to be tempered by the enormous responsibility that this position actually carries. That responsibility will sometimes mean that you have to make decisions in the loneliness of your own office and without the collective energy of those around you. These decisions that must be made by you have to be in the public's interest, in the national interest, and must be justified from that point of view. It will require you to have a far stronger, assertive management of our economy than was evident over the last number of years. As Deputy Bruton's pointed out, you now have a situation where there is really a currency crisis for exporters with the fall in the dollar and the fall in sterling. There is a requirement for real intervention by government to restore Ireland's competitiveness as a trading nation. There are clearly the infrastructural inadequacies of road and rail and power and energy and broadband. There is the fact of almost 100,000 young couples now facing the prospect of negative equity in the housing market next year. There is the consequences from the fallout of a 50% reduction in house building and all that brings. There is the clear evidence of the tax take being in free fall and public finances heading for an unprecedented deficit. There's also the evidence of lack of development of a real world-class education system and not a veneer of perfection as we are painted with on a regular basis. And obviously there is also the requirement to implement and enforce legislation that is passed by this House, particularly in the area of justice and what we see happening on our streets. And we also have to play a greater part as a small nation in the bigger scheme of things on a global scale. Indeed, as Minister Gormley pointed out, in terms of climate change and energy security, food security and dealing with poverty. There is the requirement, Taoiseach, to build up our people and build up their confidence. And I hope that from your perspective, you will continue the work of all your predecessors, of all of them, in respect of the Good Friday Agreement, and deal now with the imminent threat of dissident groups who plan to disrupt what has been achieved after so much hard work and so much commitment by so many people. And this party has always supported the implementation of the Good Friday Agreement in full, and we stand and will stand by that. We're now 5 weeks from the Lisbon decision in terms of the referendum. This is and will be your first electoral challenge. You are aware that the Fine Gael party for many months has been campaigning openly, publicly and strongly in favour of a yes vote on the Lisbon referendum. I'm quite sure that by now, if you haven't done so already, you will recognise that I am both qualified and able to make a judgment on a matter like that. And if you want evidence of my commitment on that, Taoiseach, if you're being driven by Westland Row in the morning, I'll be there from 7:15 to meet customers and consumers as they go about their daily business. Any other credits or plaudits that you look for, you'll have to earn them. I want to say to you that you can start this evening at your first Cabinet meeting, as I said, by indicating clearly your resolve and your intent to lead a new style of government for a country that needs a change of government in terms of the challenges that it faces. You can start that by, first item on the agenda, the rejection of the ministerial pay increases. Secondly, that you come back here with a different Minister for Health. And thirdly, that you announce that you propose to develop a realistic programme for government that can be deliverable within the timescale of the government that you will lead. I hope, Taoiseach, to be that you will restore the primacy of this House. I hope you will restore the primacy of this House, that you'll see to it that major announcements are made in here, that members of the House get answers to questions, and I hope that your immediate predecessor gets a better quality of answer to written questions than deputies on all sides of the House do over the last number of years. I know you have an interest in reforming this chamber and the way this House goes about its business, and I'd like to see the evidence of that. Insofar as I'm concerned, I want to say to you, I congratulate you again on your nomination for the position of Taoiseach here. This party will continue to stand by the country, as all the leaders of this party have done in the past. We will support issues that we believe are in the national interest and in our people's interest. And I want you to understand that I am always encouraged by the enthusiasm of young people, irrespective of their backgrounds across this country. I'm encouraged by their endeavour and by their commitment. And given the responsibility that you will now carry on your shoulders, you too have an enormous opportunity. This is a challenge that I know you will not shirk. But there is an opportunity here to lead, and to lead decisively, to inspire young people, to enthuse our older folk that politics really does matter. And that as a small country, having travelled so far in a short time, we actually have the capacity to be world leaders in so many areas of life. and we can lead by example. And you can start that in your Taoiseachship this very evening. And as I say, insofar as the issues that concern our country and its future are concerned, we will not be found wanting where we believe that things should be supported. But you can take it, Taoiseach, to be that where the government and your ministers, whoever they are, all these brilliant people waiting and doting on your every syllable for the last month, every syllable, when they come back in here, change suits or whatever, and when they're given their seals of office, I'd like you to understand that where they fall down on implementing the programme for government, this party for one, and I'm sure the Labour Party will agree, you will be pursued relentlessly in this House here. Ministers are not going to sleep easily for the next 4 years if they do not implement the programmes that is set out by government if you decide to change that. We will oppose and expose and promote our own viewpoint strongly and vociferously in this chamber where I believe that it really matters. You are now, and have been for some time, the guardian of the people's money. You assume the captaincy of the team for Ireland. Use that wisely. Use this opportunity wisely. And do not, as I believe you won't, shirk your responsibilities. It was, I think, Ronald Reagan who said, you know, politics is not a bad profession. And if you succeed, there are great rewards. If you end up in disgrace, you can always write a book. I don't think that'll happen to you, and I don't think you'll want to write the book yourself. But I do hope that you lead by example, and that your government, when it comes back in here this evening, will have an agenda that is clear, that is decisive, and that is in the country's interests. Because the complacency and the veneer we've had for the last number of years will not stand us in good stead in the time ahead. Finally, may I say, I started by saying that your motto in Offaly, the faithful county, is Esto Fidelis. Maybe you might extend it just a little bit now. Esto Fidelis Patria Tua. Congratulations.
Ceann Comhairle, bhfuilm cógáiris go bhfuil leis an Taoiseach nua tá tufa ag an Dáil inniu. Is lá mór é a bhríon deit hain, agus is anóir mór deit hain, dod clán, dod cárdia, agus dod choismintir I gunda é fáile. Glacam leis gur duine an Comasach agus clisteú, agus cuim ámhórart go pásanta, agus I lent na dúilge sí stáit, agus phobal a bheits agat a maithan seo. I want to congratulate Deputy Brian Cowen, Minister Cowen, on his election here today as Taoiseach. It is a great day for him, great honour for him, for his family, friends, and for his community. I travelled back from South Galway on Monday evening last through your faithful county of Offaly. And as I travelled on the road from Banagher and Ferban, and as I rounded the corner at Ballycumber, headed for Clara, it was quite clear the pride that there is in your own local community. The posters were up in anticipation of your election as Taoiseach. And it's quite clear that there's enormous pride. And indeed, a lot of them I see around the House today. I don't recall being quite so overwhelmed by Offaly people since the final moments of the 1981 hurling final. I want to wish you well personally, Taoiseach, and I want to wish you well in respect of the duties that you will perform on behalf of the state and of the people. You have indeed, you come to the office with a reputation of being a very capable and indeed combative politician. And I certainly look forward to debating with you here about the issues that affect the people of this country. You are coming to office at a changed time in the country and a changing time. And many of the changes indeed are of your own making. You're coming to office at a time when many people are worried about their jobs, about their businesses, about how they're going to pay the mortgage, concerned about the services that they get from the state, whether it's in our hospitals or schools or in the general services that they get in their local communities. There was a lot done, and not all of it has produced the best results for the people of the country over the past 11 years. There are things that I want to say about that, but I think I'll reserve saying them until you return later in the evening, until we see the fuller picture. I want to wish you well at this stage in your office as Taoiseach. I wish you well personally, and as I said, I look forward to engaging with you in what I believe will be direct, honest, straight debate about different ways of serving the people of this country.
Taoiseach tufa a waithlam a cogargicus agus cogargicus na shakti in Finn a gwaldit. I would like to, on my own behalf and on behalf of the Sinn Féin deputies, to extend our congratulations to you on your being elected to the position of Taoiseach here this afternoon. I very sincerely wish you well in that post, in that onerous responsibility and all the tasks that will present over the months and years ahead. I hope that you will recognise that as an opposition voice, an opposition party, that it is our responsibility to give voice to the deficiencies in government performance, which I have done resolutely time and time again, and will continue to do, in the hope that you and your colleagues in whatever new cabinet you will establish will hear, will listen, and will act accordingly. Because there are so many people hurting, there are so many people fearful within our society today, and not everyone has benefited from the past decade of economic success. Outside the gates of this House today, people from County Kerry protested at the prospect of a deterioration in health service delivery in that county. Each and every county has every right to be concerned that the template that has been devised in the North East will be visited upon their community in the future. And irrespective of the protests of the current Minister for Health and Children and other voices within the government parties represented in this chamber, it is the absolute duty of voices here to represent the need for change, the importance of not only change in terms of individuals holding particular portfolio responsibilities, but change in policy direction. I urge that change. I urge it respectfully, and I hope that you, who I believe is someone who has demonstrated himself to have an ear and an eye to the reality of the needs of people, that you will translate those skills into real and determined change in policy direction in health, in education, in public transport, in housing provision, in all of the areas. We have a right to expect quality public services, and people in this country are waiting for that delivery. I would hope that your term in office will see those changes, and the first signalling of your intent will clearly be known within a matter of a few short hours within this chamber when you announce your new cabinet makeup. I hope, Taoiseach-elect Brian Cowen, that you will have taken on board these appeals on behalf of the people that we all represent, and I look forward, in the event of your embracing these changes, that you and we can work together in a positive fashion into the future in the service of our people and the people of the island of Ireland as a whole.
John Gormley.
Ceann Comhairle bhfuilm Cardigus Gowalda Brian Cowen agus a Clown. This is a very proud day for Brian Cowen, a proud day for the people of Offaly and Clara, and I think, and I've no doubt about this, that Brian's late father, Bear Cowen, would be extremely proud of his son's achievement here today. I spoke earlier of Brian Cowen's many fine qualities. I forgot to mention one which I think is very, very important. That is his commitment to social justice, something that became very apparent to me when we were holed up for so many days there, along with Minister Dempsey and Minister Seamus Brennan. And I would like to pay tribute as well today to Seamus Brennan, someone who had negotiated and played a leading role, I would say, in those negotiations. And I wish him well. I know we heard earlier on about the health difficulties of Deputy Gregory, but certainly I wish Seamus Brennan and his family all the best for the future as well. One thing also that became clear, Ceann Comhairle, was that Brian Cowen understood the Green vision. He told me at the time that he had a very, very good relationship with my colleague, Joschka Fischer. And I think it is clear now, and it is clear that we have to work together on these issues, because the twin problems that we face in this House are ones that only can be solved by working together, government and opposition. And Deputy Kenny, I heard your words earlier on. I'm sorry I had to disappoint you. It wasn't me ringing you, but I can say this. I can say this. We have come out of a period of unprecedented economic growth and prosperity. And I would like to acknowledge the role played by the Fine Gael Party and the Labour Party towards achieving that economic success. And I think the only way that we will achieve in government on the issues of peak oil and climate change is again by working together. And that is why this government has worked so well over the last 10 months. We have set up, as you probably know, the Joint Oireachtas Committee on Climate Change. We appointed a member of Fine Gael to lead that committee. And I would be most anxious that we work together over the next while. I have no doubt at all that the incoming Taoiseach understands what consensus politics is all about. He understands that if we are to tackle the major issues facing this country and facing our planet, that we'll all have to work together for the betterment of this country. And I would hope, Deputy Stagg, that you would be more gracious in your approach as well. So can I finally say my congratulations to Brian Cowen and to the Fianna Fáil party. It is a very important occasion for him personally, and again I congratulate his family who are with us here in the gallery. Thank you.
Ceann Comhairle, I too would like to congratulate Brian Cowen on his election as Taoiseach in this House. And shortly he'll begin the journey up to Áras an Uachtaráin to receive a seal of office, and I think it will have to be a very proud journey for him and for his family. And it's great that today he's joined here by his mother, by his wife Mary, and by their two daughters and his family. And they're probably feeling perhaps prouder than he is, because I know that he is beginning to take on board the enormity of the honour that has been bestowed on him. I'd like to join with Deputy Gormley in wishing our colleague Seamus Brennan a speedy recovery. I was nominated to the Seanad with Seamus Brennan in 1977, and I think I will be joined by everybody in this House in hoping that his current health problems will be a thing of the past very soon, and that would be all our wish. I said earlier, Deputy Cowen is a man of enormous ability and intelligence, and I've no doubt now, as captain of the team, a team that he's been very loyal to, and I have had the pleasure of working with him for over 10 years, for nearly 11 years as a member of the government. And I have found in Brian Cowen somebody that really understands the constitutional imperative of collective cabinet responsibility. But it's not just because it's a constitutional imperative. I think he genuinely is a team player, and Deputy Kenny spoke about the fact that in this House on a number of occasions he's spoken about loyalty being a political virtue. and I think he will bring all of that to the benefit of the new government that he will be Taoiseach of later this evening. And in that task, he not only has my good wishes, but I know the good wishes of the vast majority of the people of this country in the challenging and daunting, but no doubt very rewarding task he's now to take on as leader of the government and Taoiseach of our country.
Deputy.
Thanks, Ceann Comhairle. I welcome the opportunity to speak and congratulate my fellow Offaly person on his election to the highest political office as Taoiseach here today. In warmly congratulating the Taoiseach, I want to also congratulate his wife Mary, his daughter Sinead and Maeve, his mum Mrs Cowen, and indeed all the Cowen and the Malloy family, the friends and supporters of Brian who are here today. It is an extremely proud day for everyone in the county of Offaly and indeed the constituency of Laois Offaly. Brian has served the constituency since 1984. And indeed worked with my father in the past and my father with his father at some stages as well. We're obviously both of different political persuasions and both passionately believe in our respective parties, but the one thing we do share and the one common aim we have are the needs and the concerns of the people of Laois and Offaly. I can promise that I will be going down Minister Gormley's route of consensus. However, I do look forward to having a constructive relationship with the new Taoiseach, and I look forward to working with him in the coming years ahead. He has a unique opportunity to deliver, and my task is to provide, I suppose, constructive opposition to that. And certainly we here in the Fine Gael party under Enda Kenny will be doing that. So can I again congratulate Taoiseach Cowen and look forward to working with him in the years ahead.
I rise briefly, Ceann Comhairle, as a constituency colleague of the incoming Taoiseach, to wish him every success. It was Deputy Gilmore mentioned that he met a lot of Offaly people around the plinth and around the House. That's true. But on behalf of the 29 or 30% who aren't here, could I offer my good wishes from a personal point of view? It is a great honour for yourself and for your family, for Mary and the girls, and for your mother and for your proud town of Clara and beyond. It's a great day for the Midlands. I wish you well. Reference was also made to previous campaigns. I can remember the 3 elections of the early 1980s, which were pressured time in political families in Laois Offaly. I think it was the first occasion that I encountered the incoming Taoiseach outside the church in Kilcormac, and he had a silver golf IR, I had a gold golf CI, and I don't think, Ceann Comhairle, that the rules of parliamentary procedure would allow me recount any more of that story, but it was a good one. It was a good one. So I just want to wish the Taoiseach well in the very serious challenges that lie ahead. I want to finally quote from somebody who I've never quoted before. He's just left the House, Jackie Healy-Rae. He said he had a few pet projects. I too have a few pet projects from the constituency, Taoiseach, and no doubt I'll have ample opportunity to discuss them with you in the near future. I wish you well.
Deputy Sean Fleming.
Thank you, Ceann Comhairle. I want to join in offering congratulations to my constituency colleague Brian Cowen from the Offaly half of the Laois Offaly constituency. I did make a mistake referring to him as a Laois man recently, and every Offaly person has taken me up on it since, so I think they all know it as a genuine mistake. I want to wish every personal happiness to Mary Cowen and all the Cowen and Malloy family, and I just want to say that as a constituency colleague, I can say within our party in the constituency, it is the most peaceful constituency in Ireland for a 5-seat, multi-seat constituency. It would be a lesson for other areas. We work as a team, united, all the party. I think people will know. I think people will know the reason we get such a high vote is because we do operate as a team. We're together on every day, bar when Laois and Offaly are playing together or against each other. I do want to say to Charlie Flanagan, he did mention he has a few pet projects. Don't worry about it, Charlie. I have them all in hand.
Deputy Johnny Maloney.
Thanks, Ceann Comhairle. It's a very difficult speech to make, lest one might think it'd be saying something for some other reason. member of the party of reality,
Can I just say to Brig Maloney that the Roman general Sulla said to the ageing Pompey the Great, he said, more worship the rising than the setting sun.
Well, I can't beat you on that one, Count Corley. Anyway, I want to also join with everybody in this House, and I want to be realistic as well. My main worry now is not 19,000 votes the next time, but possibly twice that because of what's happening here today. But either way, I'm delighted to be here in this chamber as a member of this Dáil to see our colleague from Laois Offaly, Brian Cowen, become Taoiseach. And I'm glad to see his family, his wife, particularly his mother, Christy and Barry, and his daughters. And the only pity is, of course, that Brian Cowen himself is not here today. And more is the pity also that his uncle Vinny only died in the last 3 weeks, who I think was the real politician in the Cowen family. But either ways, I think it's fair to say, and I was surprised even that he only got 88 votes, because so much praise for Brian Cowen the last few weeks in this chamber. I expected members of the opposite side to come over here and vote with us on this particular occasion. But nevertheless, all I can say, to quote my colleague Sean Fleming, yes, we're so united in Laois Offaly. And of course, my hope would be that from this day on we remain so loyal and friendly as well. Thank you.
Sharon Taoiseach contacta Brian O'Cowen.
Gramagat a ceart córa agus aithníam gur mór an ordom ifig an Taoiseach a dlacha aniu nuair a héim go dtí áras nuachtarán agus dlacham go húil leis. Is ó cád mhór é do mo chlán do mo chéile Mary, do mo bhirtaín Sinead agus Maeve, do mo mháthair May, do mo chlán agus mo gailta ilig. Tá an fearmhuíocht de lucht takeíochta an rialtas an party parlamenta fiú na fáil, an party cointas glas, na dénlaigh agus na teachtaí navsplag. Mar rounding sibh mé mar stan post mór chóramach seo. Nuair a carm siúil siar na hiartaoise go bhí réim sa tíir seo ó bhaníoch an stát. Is maithas óldom an deá obair tá dainte acu I leith na tíre. Tuigim go maith gúil an cuaram céine ormsa agus mar chóir leatha sa rialtas. Tá an bhródú as na gascí atá dainte ag saoránaigh na tíre seo sa saoilí Guiteanna. Tá clú agus cáil ar scríbhnóirí ar geoltóirí ar lú clasathe agus ile. Ar na mílta ón dír seo a heastal an dam agus a heaspáin a gcuid talan. Tá déanra an ógaing sa tíir seo agus tá cumas ionta. Tuigim míad go bhfuil feibanna agus dacreachtaí le réiteach agin agus galam siadíomh go néanamíad ar seach níhil chun na feibanna a tharú. Is dúláán é dúing go léir. Tá ancuid cainte fí drogstad ach na míochta na tíre seo ach an bhfuil darú dainte agin ar an orbert atá dainte agin le blianta nús. Cá míad a admháil go bhfuil gunamíad níos fearr as ná mar a bhíomar. Cá míad be réalíoch. Ní léon áras orm ach go bhfuil sé de gúilgas oring na mór feibanna so síochta atá agin a réite. Ba sé mar ceann spíocha agam. Cabhar a thabhairt dóibh siúd atá ar imil ar sochaí. Ní mór doing ara, orm, meas agus ceann a thabhairt ar seanóirí agus a cintú nach mé saoil anis dearáil uigneacha amach an seo. Fadó bhí mar ag brathar achtranig chun an tír seo a orbert ach an isis tá pobl ilte agin agus níl drogal ortha a dalan a léirú. Deirtar go bhfuil mína mala hartam an isis. Is fad an lá ó bhí mína mala agam. Agus nílam ag súil leis sa saoil políochta. Tuigim go bhfuil jab le dhéanamh ag an rasúra agus fáiltíimiid raibh chána dearfach. Is beag maithas atá I gána dúilteach. Tá míad ilig ag obair ar son na tíre. Agus maidir leis na meán tuairimid gach cabhardaí. Ní lech rud amháin ag tastáil uing sé sin chum na féine a thabhairt in our saoil puiblí agus go háirithe in our saoil príomhádach. Dlacham míad le cána ach iarm se ormh a bheith fearálta. Thos níos mar óráid I nGaeilge mar is é mo bharú ná gur seod luachfar I Ardanga agus caithimid I a chuimhnú agus a orbert. Cé go méach lucht na díspagach ann a gring I gcónaí.
Massam féin go bhfuil deabhéin í leith na teangain í measc an phobal anois. Ní léon vat a dríochta agam, ach tá sprochanna os ar gcór. Ní fallardúing misneach a thuairt de bhaintear na Gaeltachta agus na Gaeltachta agus a choranúil don phobal go bhfuil míad bródúil as ar danga. Ní carcameach nára oring í a labhart go chuiblí. Cén fánach méidir bheith gá theanga. Níl bás na tangan mar rogha agin as déanaimid sa rialta scach iireacht ar danga a chamad bio agus í a chothú. Ceann Comhairle, deputies from all sides of the House, I am deeply honoured by my nomination for the position of Taoiseach. A number of weeks ago, my parliamentary colleagues chose me to lead Fianna Fáil. That was a great honour in itself. Now today, this House has elected me as Taoiseach, and I'm the 12th person to have that honour bestowed upon him since the foundation of our state as leader of the executive. I accept the honour with a genuine sense of humility. That sense is engendered in large part from a love of Ireland. This is a wonderful country, and we are a fortunate people. We live on an island which has come to enjoy the richness of full peace, with no strife or agitation born from past hostilities. Yesterday's proceedings at the site of the Battle of the Boyne have reinforced that fact in a very real and visible way. And I commend the outgoing Taoiseach and outgoing First Minister Ian Paisley on the sentiments expressed in their respective addresses at the site yesterday, and indeed Mrs Paisley also. The scale of that challenge is expressed in the quality and achievements of all those who have gone before me in this high office, and I think also my immediate predecessor in this context, Bertie Ahern, whose outstanding contribution to the life of this country has rightly attracted praise and acknowledgement from far and wide, and follows in a great tradition and line of Taoiseach before him. Summarised most eloquently in the message which he brought to the Congress of the United States of America in recent days, his is an inspirational example. I salute him and wish him happiness and fulfilment in the contributions which he will doubtless make over many years ahead. Tomorrow I will have the privilege of addressing the Investment Conference for Northern Ireland with Prime Minister from the UK, Gordon Brown. It is appropriate that on my first working day as Taoiseach, I will have the opportunity to advance relationships and deepen engagement, both on a north-south and an east-west basis. Consolidating the peace through economic development and mutual understanding will have my full engagement and my wholehearted support. Tomorrow's conference is a timely reminder that our destiny on this island cannot be secured in isolation from the rest of the world. We share too much from history and culture with our neighbouring islands not to work for the deepest friendship and the most fruitful engagement. Our economic success on this island owes much to the strength and depth of our relationship with the United States, both through the very many investors who found here a successful partner for investment and through the scale of the trading relationship between the two countries. But it is in the context of our European identity and membership of the European Union that our place in the international arena and our relationships with other nations, near and far, find their proper perspective and most potent context. As a member of the European Council, I will strive to ensure that our European vocation is a live, engaged and creative thing, not a passive recipient of the fruits of the labours of others. In the same spirit, I look forward to leading a campaign over coming weeks to assure the Irish people that ratification of the European Reform Treaty is in our interests. And far from damaging them, the treaty will enhance our capacity to shape developments in line with our own perspectives and principles. There is no more urgent or important task ahead of me in the immediate time ahead. In considering my role as Taoiseach, I have thought a great deal about Ireland's place in the world today. Where does Ireland stand as we approach the closing years of the first decade of the 21st century? And we know indeed it's a very different place even to 10 years ago when we were heading towards the millennium. Our economic success then in its early years has been sustained. We have settled our relationships on this island and reached accommodations that had been inconceivable for generations. With our increased confidence, we explore and exploit new opportunities overseas. The movement of our people now is by choice. In the past, it was by force of circumstance. And perhaps most strikingly of all, we have accommodated tens of thousands of migrants coming to our shores to help us sustain our economic success. All of this represents huge change in a short period. It would be challenging for any society, but particularly for us, given our location and history. We have adapted well and established many common values with the rest of Europe. They are largely positive values. We have matured through the process and learned from our new experiences how to right some of our failures of the past. The influence of the European Union project has been all-pervasive across every aspect of our lives. We have availed of the full range of opportunities of membership better than most. The political, economic and social landscape has been utterly transformed for the better in this country because of our participation in the European Union. The greatest mistake we could now make is to move away from that opening out to the world that has brought such benefits to our nation. I've been reading Des Gerrty's excellent book, 40 Shades of Green, in recent days. His thesis is that we are now in a new space. What was once one of the most dispersed nations in the world is now becoming one of the most diverse nations in the world. The change is visible and real. And we are now redefining ourselves in terms of both mending relationships with those of other traditions of long standing within the island and establishing relationships with the new Irish and migrants who have come to our shores to share in the economic miracle of the tiger economy. And we are also connecting in a myriad of ways through economic, social and cultural lines with many peoples on the continent of Europe and further afield, as the economic reach of our society is becoming truly global. Our Celtic heritage has helped us as a modern republic to take our place as a leading nation within the European Union. We are admired and respected as a progressive country throughout the wider community of the developed world. And in the developing world, the tradition of giving of our forefathers has been maintained by the contemporary missionary and development work of today's Irish men and women who toil there as a vocation. In my first budget to this House, I talked of economic activity as a servant of society. The statistics speak volumes for what we've achieved in the past 15 years. They might also get too much attention. Some might ask what year-on-year growth amounts to if it doesn't improve some people's lives. But Ireland in 2008 is a much better place to live for more of our people than ever before. Far fewer of our people are struggling on the margins of our society. We've moved from a third world infrastructure to one that is progressing well and will be the match of many of our European peers in the years ahead. And one of the challenges we face today is to temper a rising tendency towards individualism within Irish society. We have rightly encouraged a culture of the individual taking personal responsibility for their well-being. We have reaped benefits from the more confident Ireland as presented by its most successful people forging new opportunities at home and abroad. But overdone, this carries risks. Not correctly harnessed, this can sap the energy of our sense of community, which is still strong and visible in so many ways. What we must prioritise is to turn the benefits of individual flair to the benefit of the community as a whole. And that's what government wants, and that's what government needs. Our responsibility is to fuel the engine of community, to lead the charge away from the promotion of exclusive self-interest towards a superior value of a wider community interest. The preeminence of community and participation over self promotes social harmony and better quality of life for all. This is what will allow us to develop a society of social inclusion. Our particular charge is to represent the interests of our young. The character of the generations that will build this century is still being formed. It is these generations that will decide the shape of the future. It is our job, as governments and as parliamentarians, to take the steps that will make it clearer for that generation, to help shape this republic in a way that realises its greater potential. I have referenced our economic progress and how that has translated into significant social enhancement. We have made great gains, but we face great challenges too. Our job as legislators is to provide leadership for society at this time of change. But we need society to engage with us in that process. Change of this nature cannot simply be driven by government. The common good is enshrined in our Constitution and should have special relevance in Ireland at the start of this 21st century. The ultimate test of our progress will be the extent to which we can mobilise all of the people to think and behave in a manner that puts the interests of society as a whole ahead of our own particular private interests. As Sean Lemass observed, all national progress depends on an upsurge of patriotism among the people. It is the job of government to lead on this issue, but that of society as a whole to address. My government will pursue this agenda to lead change, and I will return to this theme when I bring forward the nominations to government to this House later this evening. Finally, I want to reflect on what this means for me personally. On assuming the position as leader-elect of Fianna Fáil, I said I was excited, if not a little daunted. I have assumed the position of Taoiseach with an even greater sense of responsibility. I have been overwhelmed by the good wishes I received from people the length and breadth of the country, and indeed from abroad, of all political persuasions and none. I want to particularly thank my family. I got my grounding in politics from my father, Bear, who had in turn got it from his father, Christy, a founding member of the Fianna Fáil party. Politics is about public service above all else. This is a great day for my wife, Mary, daughter Sinead and Maeve, my mother, May, my brothers, Christopher and Barry, and all other members of my family and Mary's family. And I'm also joined by many friends who have made this political journey with me and mine for many years. This presence fortifies me today. I thank the men and women of this House for the generosity of their support and their genuine good wishes. Indeed, I look forward to them extending that blanket of goodwill for many months to come. All of these greetings from within this House and without are most welcome, although in some respects they add to the sense of expectation. I will commit myself completely to meeting those expectations. I sincerely hope that I can do so in full. It is now necessary, Count Corla, to inform the President of my nomination so that she may appoint me as Taoiseach. I suggest that the Dáil therefore be suspended until 6 o'clock.